How's it going, everybody? We got a good show coming up with our new friend that we're going to get to know, Kamal Gabry, who wrote a book we might be interested in taking a look at. We're going to get to know him a little bit, and then we're going to talk about his book. Happy solstice to everybody. 7 years of tribulation are over, however you want to look at it energetically. Something's definitely changed. These shows resonate with you. Please share. Thank you for your continued love, support, and contributions as we get ready to take this Soulogy network to a higher level and expand it until every single soul on the face of the earth has a platform to express themselves. All right. How's it going, everybody? I'm going to bring up Kamal Gabry. He's our guest today. He reached out to us about a month ago, and we're happy to have him on. Let me just get him up here. Let's see. All right, hang on a second, Kamal. There you go. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. How you doing, sir?
Hello, Todd. Nice to meet you finally.
Nice to meet you. I think, do you have, I hear something going on here. Hang on. Do you have a window open with the Facebook?
No.
No, you just have Zoom open only.
Okay, I can cancel the mic if you want me to.
No. We need your mic, but there's something else coming in. Of course, that could be our other aspects, or multidimensional aspects participating in the conversation. I don't know. Can you hear it? Or is it just me?
I think I'm okay on my end.
Test. Yeah, it's could be on your end.
Okay, I can, let me do this.
Do you have a
Because I
test? No, it's still test. Okay, whatever you did worked. Can we hear you? Now we can't hear you though.
hear you. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
now we can hear you. Hang on. Let me get this up a little bit. Okay, go ahead.
Test.
Yeah, I can't hear you very well. I think you turned off your mic that's in your ears. Let's see what we got going on here. Maybe I'm the only one that could hear it. All right. Well, let's give it a shot. Oh, they do hear it. Let's see. Go ahead. Test it. Yeah, it's a little. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hello, Todd.
Yes, we can hear you now. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, we're good. Can you hear me?
I cannot hear you so clearly.
Oh, you can't hear.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I apologize.
No, there's no apologies here. We're in the 5D here. Anything goes. We don't know what's happening.
Okay, let me check this one.
Yeah. How's it going, everybody out there? Let's see. Oh, you can't access Zoom. Let me put the Zoom link in the comments.
Can you hear me now clearly?
Yes, we hear you very clearly now. Very clearly. Yeah. Can you hear us?
Perfect.
You can hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, let me just put the
Yeah, I
Zoom.
don't need
Yeah, you're good. Whatever you did is perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, right on. Okay, so we're looking good now. We got it. All right, so welcome to Soul Speaks 5D, Kamal, and everybody else. We get to meet a new brother today, who's come out with a book that we're going to talk a little bit about. But let's get to know him first. Now, you're a doctor. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. And in fact, let me see, where do I have that? I had it pulled up, but I just came in off the road. So, okay. And hello, Heba Gabry. That must be
This is my wife.
hello. Beautiful divine feminine. Behind every great man is a great woman, right?
Of course.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, you obviously, this book you're talking about bringing science and spirituality together, science and spirit together.
Yes.
How did you get to that point? Did you have a wake up experience? Was there something that occurred in your life that woke you up?
It's a series. It was a series of experiences, Todd. You know, I am actually amazed by the wonderful people who actually got a lot more experience and who we speak about as star seeds. I don't have this kind of experience. In my end, it was meditation, Qigong, that actually brought me to this after exposure to serious pain and depression for over 10 years in my life.
Wow. Wow. And so when did you break through? When did you have your breakdown or your breakthrough?
It started in 2007. Well, I actually, if you're talking about breakdown,
Right.
I was in pain and suffering from 1997 until best 2008.
All right.
So it's over 11 years in pain and suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can relate a little bit to that. I don't know what kind of pain and suffering you had, but I guess everybody's pain and suffering is proportionate to their life experience, and it's all probably one and the same energetically anyway. Now, when did you write this book, and what inspired you to do it?
Well, I went on that spiritual journey essentially after 2007, and I learned so much. I actually experienced amazing experiences that brought my eyes, like as if I put off bad lenses and put on high definition lenses. And day after day, I feel like my awareness level rises sky high. And I was content with my life. I have a very good life, but it was a wake up call that my older brother, who was 2 years older than me, passed in March of 2019. Kind of suddenly, he got cancer and he transitioned within a few months. So that actually was a wake up call because I have so much within me that I haven't shared. I mean, with my patients, I give them bits and pieces as they need, but to put it together as a book, I felt it is time to do it now, particularly in light of seeing everybody coming out and contributing to transformation of this planet at this time.
Yeah. And what kind of medical doctor are you? I know in looking at, and I can't find it right now, I'm looking at some of your biographical information. You've actually worked in a couple of government institutions, I think, haven't you? As well as your own practice. Yeah.
Yes, well, I'm trained in many disciplines. In medicine, I started teaching physiology, and I actually ended up doing neuroendocrinology at the National Institutes of Health. I got 3 different fellowships, one after the other, between 1996 and 2003. I ended up as a unit of the chief of stress at the National Institute of Mental Health.
Wow.
And then I moved to a tenure at the Food and Drug Administration as a medical officer to review diabetes drugs. So essentially, I have training in physiology, endocrinology, psychiatry.
Wow. So this is interesting. So you've got the physiology part of it, and then the mental health part of it, which has always baffled me. Like many other people, I've had people close to me or family members that have had what the world would describe as a mental affliction. You know, specifically schizophrenia, bipolar, multiple personalities, that type of thing. And I was very amazed in my journey in coming across people that were diagnosed with these types of disorders and afflictions, at how much they could see into the other side, so to speak, that others couldn't. Do you have any kind of information on that, or anything you can add to that with these types of people that we call afflicted?
Of course, yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, people with depression, essentially they suffer. Okay, my views now have changed quite a bit from the time I was doing my training at NIMH. So right now, when I get these patients, I actually help them uh, thin out their ego and allow their souls to shine, which actually produces amazing results. So
Wow.
essentially, it's like excessive mental activity, in my humble opinion.
Mm.
And when we can tackle into that in order to allow the person to connect to his spirit, it could be just by simple breathing, by the way, as you probably know.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of these patients will wake up and will say to you, wow, I never experienced this like this before.
Wow.
And on many occasions, I get a patient who was exposed, for example, to electroconvulsive therapy, ECT. And after 3 sessions or 4 sessions of one-on-one, we call it life coaching, he would actually say, I have never felt better in my life. It's been
Wow.
20 years, I've never felt that way.
So you're an energy practitioner, but
I
you've come through conventional means, you know, your conventional means through the education system and the professional system. And I've never heard anybody say this, what you just said, and I just want to go back over it, because I did have somebody very close to me who had these types of issues: depression, chronic depression, as well as schizophrenia. Um, I always knew, like I said earlier, that this person and others that I came across in my path had some type of enhanced set of lenses into what we might call the other side, or the higher dimensions. And I knew
They
that was
do.
yeah, I knew that was a struggle and a challenge for him. But what you just said really, really hit home with me, is that you said that you have an approach in your sessions where you start to remove the layers of the ego, okay, or say the lenses of the ego, which would actually apply to the vast majority of us in all of our journeys. But I can see now, as you explain this, that the people that I'm familiar with in my own life, that their egoic voice was extremely loud, like much, much louder and much,
You
much
got it.
harder, much
Yeah.
harder to overcome. Even so, you know, it's kind of strange because they were higher up here, they were higher up here. You know, they had more vision, but they also had more egoic influence. So that's very interesting. But I'd like to hear a little bit about how you work with people, because if you're working with extreme situations, or clients that are having extreme experiences in terms of an enhancement of the higher dimensional activity, as well as an enhancement of the egoic mental activity, that same thing would seem to apply to any of us. What is your approach? I mean, you don't have to give us all the specifics, but in general, how do you go about removing those layers of the egoic mental voice?
Well, I first differentiate whether it's soul activity or egoic mental activity. Because for some amazing light workers, they do actually go to higher dimensions, which is quite legitimate and beautiful. And I personally get these kinds of experiences every now and then. And as a matter of fact, it's by going to the higher dimension, which I state in this book, that you actually bring the diamonds from heavens to earth. So if the person is going to higher dimension as an activity of her soul, that's so beautiful, I don't need to do anything about that. If she or he is going, well, to egoic world, that's actually excessive mental activity. They can see things, but they cannot quite relate to how to translate it in this world of form. So we help them translate it into this world of form. And to translate it, they need to calm down their mind activity or the separatist mental activity. Because in my definition my humble definition in this book is that what I define ego is a separatist mental activity that is judgmental, that's so involved with the past or with the future, and is away from the now. In
Yeah.
order, as you know, in order to be with the soul, we need to be with our energy system, we need to be in the now, we need to allow ourselves to go past the thoughts, to go to the higher dimension, which is quite illustrated here.
Yeah.
So with this person who has amazing, important visions or important experiences, you need to overcome the separatist mental activity, and once that happens, they can actually bring what they see, they translate it, because you translate essentially from other dimensions into this world.
Yeah. And I would also say that many of the people that are viewing this and that will view it on the replay, including myself, have been at some time or another considered or diagnosed even as having a mental affliction. And so we're actually talking to people that can identify with this experience that you're talking about. I find it fascinating that I'm of course married to an energy practitioner. She's been doing this for some 20 years.
Hi, Morgan.
Thank you. And it's interesting to me how these energy practitioners can identify what you're talking about, separating as you're talking about. But in your case, I would think that you've been primarily dealing with people that have been, put into the medical industry for a fix, and you've come to this realization or this method or this modality that is not typical of the medical profession. Did you have any problems with the medical profession when you started to institute your methodology?
Yeah, of course. I mean, insurance would not cover like spending an hour with a patient to do this kind of work. They want me to see like 5, 6 different patients in an hour. So essentially, when I practice, I'm out of insurance, and for the people by word of mouth who would be interested, and I would charge them the minimum that can just make my practice survive. I essentially, just to run a practice, I don't even bring anything home from the practice. I just wanted to run.
Yeah. And through meditation and Qigong, did you receive, how did you make this conversion? How did you make it? Did you receive what you might call infinite intelligence directing you and guiding you on how to put this type of process or modality or treatment together for these people?
It's not the same way as many of your guests would speak about, although I recognize it and I appreciate it. But in my case, I'm essentially programmed to be a scientist. So I thought about things like some of the things, for example, Rumi's quote saying, "Silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation." Or when he says, "Let us be nothing," I heard it lasts forever.
Yeah.
So I take these things and meditate on them, and I do levitate with these kinds of experience. I find that like even when I'm walking, I actually go to higher feelings, higher places. And with Qigong, I actually did pass, it happened like several times with breathing exercises in Qigong that I felt that I went to a different dimension, and it was so beautiful. I didn't want to come back.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say like I've seen other entities or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, but I think, and this is one of the reasons I love doing the show, because people have different experiences, and that's really where the gold is. But you're saying that you don't think you do it like a lot of these people are on the show, but I think you do. I think it is the same thing. Some people see dragons and some people don't see anything. But the bottom line is they get the information and it comes through. And for me, it's a lot like what you described. If I can hold a thought and sit with it, like you're talking about with the Rumi quote, for instance, then it takes me to a more expanded place. And most of the time that's in solitude when I'm walking, which is my form of meditation.
Yes.
But one last thing on the what society calls the mentally afflicted, these types of clients that you've worked with, how did you get them to quiet their mind? Was it any different than it would be for anyone else?
No, it is not that different from anyone else. Okay, because essentially what I delineated is that as your attention cannot go to your thoughts and to your breathing at the same time. So by tuning into your breathing, essentially your attention stays with, your thoughts try to hijack it, okay? And I just encourage myself or encourage the individual to stay with her breathing and then start to tune into body energy and be in the now. Automatically the thoughts subside. And when both happens, that you go above the thoughts and you are into your energy level, tuned with it in the now, you actually rise into consciousness. So the first few chapters in this book are actually about this method, which is quite easy to follow and easy to explain. And this is the main reason I started to write this book.
Yeah.
Because I went to many retreats, and there are amazing teachers that I learned so much from them. But in this book, I actually tried to make it simple, not for you and your community, but for the people who have never heard about it. Because for me, I was writing chapters and articles about stress in the main literature. And when it came to meditation, I really didn't know about it until I was over 40.
Yeah.
So I tried to make it easy for others to actually grasp it and follow it and use it.
Yeah. Well, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal that, and not knowing everything about your background, but any of us, and probably most all of us, have been entrenched in what we might call the matrix for a period of our lives. And to be able to pull out of that, and like in my case, for instance, to go out of a corporate career and then pull out of it and go the other direction is probably easier than your situation where you've actually stayed in the construct of society in your role, but actually incorporated this expanded knowledge in really transforming what has been the typical practice. You've actually brought in new energy, transformative energy.
Well, I hope so. I see also other people doing the same. Like a husband of one of my patients is a professor in a college of engineering in Cairo, Egypt. And he actually had these kinds of experiences. He had out-of-body experiences, and he knows exactly what we're talking about right now. So I see scientists, I see engineers, I see even politicians. One of the people was actually like a chief police officer here in the United States who came to me and his complaint was insomnia. He wasn't able to sleep, for decades. And just by learning a simple technique, he came back to me and said, I sleep like a child. It's better than drugs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. And my wife introduced me to this kind of stuff. A lot of times for people that are starting to come into a higher awareness, they don't realize how it can be applied to the little things, right? Like she told me,
to everything.
Yeah, to everything. In other words, it's to me, it's like a programming, like we're programming ourselves. I don't know if that resonates with you. I want to read an excerpt from the book, and I've got a couple of questions, and I'm going to come back to those. People are asking a couple of questions, and I'm going to come right back to those. So just bear with me for a second. I want everyone to take this part in, though. This is an excerpt from Heaven on Earth, Science Meets Spirituality, which is right up, to me, that's Soulogy, right in the middle, science and spirituality, because you can't get rid of one without the other. Now, it says this, quote, the unique property of your soul that can monitor your mental activity and your energy and its interactions is your awareness. It is part of the one consciousness. Your awareness is higher than your mental activity. Your awareness can bypass your mental activity and influence your body directly through the parasympathetic nervous system and the enteric nervous system. This is why the layperson describes her spiritual sensations as heart or gut sensations. The parasympathetic and enteric nervous systems control the diastolic response of the body, those that are relaxing and enjoyable. You know, I think that's a really powerful quote because not only does it tell me, because I'm kind of simple, I'm one of those laymen. And so the first thing is I have the awareness. The second thing is that now I can program and then see the result of what I've done versus observing the result of what I haven't done. You know, like why do I feel this way? Why is this happening? And you know, kind of going from the other end, and then you find it. I like this approach. It makes a lot of sense to me to really kind of take control and then to kind of monitor your results through the success that you're having, for lack of a better way to put it. But yeah, this is powerful. Now we've got a question here from my friend Naveen. She says, can you ask what made him realize that the medical way was not the only way?
My own experiences. Remember, I had a car accident in 1997, and I had 2 surgeries on my spinal cord. I had fusion from C3 to C6, and then an extended fusion from C2 to C7. So 2 big surgeries in 5 years, 2000 to 2005. I was taking antidepressants, anti-anxiety, narcotics that would numb down a horse. Too much medicine. And I was, even though I was very, very successful in my field in science and I was studying stress, but my health essentially succumbed to the point of just almost non-existent. I almost demolished physically. And my spine was so threatened. And then in 2007, after my second spinal surgery, I actually found an acupuncturist from China in Bethesda, Maryland, and I found a good massage therapist. And I discovered that I'm actually getting better. That's something that didn't happen to me for over 11 years. And then I started to look into these things, but it wasn't until I retired in 2008 that I started to look at them professionally. So I went and studied the American Board of Integrative and Holistic Medicine. I studied acupuncture, I studied Reiki, I studied massage. I got diplomas in all of these, you know. So, and then all of this learning is what enabled me to write this kind of quote or author this kind of book, because this is totally out of the realm of the scientific literature. This is quite original, you know.
Yes.
So it was my experiences that broke or caused my ego to break, you know, and my soul to start to actually find light elsewhere.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question.
Yeah, that was a very good answer. I like that. So the ego to break thing. We'll come back to that part in a minute because I think you have a really strong perspective on it, not only as a patient, but as a practitioner. My friend Deidre wants to know: do you know? Have you heard of the black box theory? Have you heard of
Black
that?
box theory?
Yeah.
No.
Have you? I haven't either. So she wanted to know what your thoughts were on it. I've never heard of it either. Now you said something really powerful a second ago, that the ego had to break. I mean, that and when you said that, I could feel the resonance of it coming out of you. I could feel the energy coming out of you. Was that a big deal for you? Was that a big obstacle to overcome?
Man, this actually gave me a new life. Look at me. I am 53. I have, you know, if you have seen me 15 years ago, I wore a neck brace and I wouldn't be able, in the airport, I traveled a lot, okay? In the airports, I would lie down on my back on the airports, you know, because of the pain. In my office at FDA, I would lie down on the floor because of the pain. So just imagine how much pain and suffering was that. And right now, I got a new life, a new wife, 2 beautiful children. And by the way, my 9 years old son, Amen, actually understands exactly what we're talking about. He actually teaches better than me.
That doesn't surprise me at all. And we look forward to maybe doing a show with you and your wife and maybe your son as well.
Would love to. As a matter of fact, having a child like this, or even other children, because these children are quite advanced, Todd,
How
they
did,
will actually impress you.
yes, how, yes, yes. And it's a mutual thing. I mean, you know, in some circles, they believe that we choose our parents. There's no doubt that these kids that are coming in are carrying a very high vibration. And even if we just sit around in their presence without even hearing anything, but I'm intrigued by what you said, that this 9-year-old can actually explain this stuff as good or better than you can, and he understands it. Did it just come natural, or did you have to give him some books or sit down and talk to him about it?
No, I teach him. I teach him. We have our little chats here and there, and then it surprises me that a mother of classmate with him, she would come and say, you know, I'm so amazed that Amin teaches my son so and so and so. So I know from other parents that Amin actually spreads the light.
Wow.
He's
Wow,
doing
that's-
exactly what you're doing.
Wow, that is amazing.
Egypt, by the way, and he's doing this in Egypt, which
Oh,
is a
and
lot more challenging than here.
oh, he's doing it in Egypt. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. My friend Jake says, did the spinal surgery have a part, do you think, in activating the nervous system, altering, or by getting into the electrical synapses? In other words, that the surgery ultimately, through the changes, then aligned or connected the synapses. He said he's having trouble wording it, but I get what he's saying. Do you think that the surgery itself somehow was, even though it was very painful and it was a very tough process, had something to do with aligning you in the physiology of it?
No, not really, not exactly that, but I think because what I really noticed or got this sometimes, I know that they used bone graft, and that bone graft somehow I feel some personality change.
Mm.
It's as if I got some wisdom from an old guy or from someone else.
Ah,
But not exactly in the synaptic transmission way. If you're talking about the synaptic transmissions, I would tell you it's Reiki.
the Reiki.
Reiki actually transformed my life since I started to learn it, and then I use it in every single thing. Every single thing. If I remember, you know, it's magic.
Yeah. So can you give us some examples of that? Because I'm not a traditional light worker. I've never done Reiki. I've never had it done on me, at least not with anybody in my presence. I've had people send me Reiki, and I have felt it a couple times. But in terms of the magic, because I love that word, and I know it's real, and I believe what you're saying, how do you apply that? Just give us a couple of examples. How do you apply that in your life?
Okay, it's the very same space you go to in meditation. Okay, you bring that, which I know you can bring it. You just can take just one deep breath and you can go to that space. It's so easy. It's not difficult. It's not challenging for a person who has experience. Okay, so you take this beautiful breath to transform you, to take you in the now, into the higher consciousness, be tuned with your
Yeah.
body energy.
Yeah.
And as soon as you do that, you actually connect, you extend your aura to embrace the patient or the client or the friend or somebody even away. And when you do that, you know, you actually can sense the pains or what this
Yeah.
person is feeling several hundreds of miles away or thousands of miles away. And then you can work on it in the very same way you work on your own thing. Like if you have pain in the spine, if you have pain in the head, you can actually direct positive energy to it.
Yeah.
And with exhalation, you dissipate negative energy. So
Yeah.
you can do this. So you actually facilitate or assist your fellow
Yeah.
human being just to get better.
Yeah. No, I can relate to that. You know, of course, being with Morgan, I can relate to it. But also, even if I look back, I have 6 children, and I can remember even when they were infants, you know, just have this. I had this knowing, this innate knowing, with my hands primarily,
Mhm.
with my gut feeling, and I could treat them. I don't know how else to put it. You
That's
know, if
exactly it.
yeah, if the baby was crying and the mother couldn't, I just knew I could, and then it would work. And I had one child who had pain from growing fast, you know, in their knees. And every time, you know, must have been 15 or 20 times, I could put my hands and my thoughts, just like you're describing. Of course, I was doing it innately without instruction, but, you know, we know how to do this. Do you see us, where do you see the world today, this realm, with
May I
everything
just
with everything that's happened, and you're a great example, and everything that you're observing, even with your clientele, where do you think we're at? What do you think? What do you think the potentiality of the collective is? And as an example, will everybody be able to understand Reiki and utilize Reiki? That type of example.
well, I ask you if I may comment on your comment first, please.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
it's your instinct, it's your natural, beautiful instinct to actually be a light worker, to actually connect to the spirit and use it to serve your fellow human being. And what's closer than your own child? Every person, every loving parent does it with their child, does it with their spouse, does it, you know, when somebody is so angry and just out of everything, the best things that you do is just put your hand on them, you know, or if they accept to cuddle with them or to hug them. If somebody's dying, do that. You know, we need to use this a lot more often. As a matter of fact, I am ashamed that the medical field doesn't utilize a fraction of this. We've turned into a medicine that doesn't even touch the patient.
Yeah.
I am considered like an old-time physician who actually touches the patient and uses the stethoscope and, you know, and feels the pulses and feels the blood pressure and examines them. Most physicians don't do this anymore. And there's an element of connection with your fellow human being, and this is where the healing is.
Yeah.
And I teach my young physician or my assistants to actually utilize this. I wish I can. The medical school curricula will start the first 6 months by teaching people Reiki and massage and light work and understanding what the human being is before introducing them to too much anatomy and physiology and pathology, etc.
Yeah.
So I hope you didn't mind that.
No. I actually think that's a great point, because it takes out all the complexity, and we all know what it's like, because even as children, you know, if a mother, pretty much mostly the mother or a grandmother, sometimes a masculine figure, but an aunt or an uncle, somebody, when you're not feeling good, whether you're sick or you hurt yourself, and just taking them into your arms.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that, and it's exactly what you're saying. So I think that's a great comment. And I'm really happy that you brought that up. And in terms of the collective, you know, there's a lot of discussion about, especially with the solstice, that we've entered a new era, that we're somehow or another been unencumbered, where our path is unobstructed, our skills and abilities are expanding. Do you see that from where you sit?
Yes, I see it quite clearly. Well, I've mentioned a little while ago that I see these amazing people. I saw, for example, a light worker who was actually a school counselor in my child's school. Okay, I see them in colleges. I see them in medicine. I see them everywhere. I think it's like when you walk around in the grocery store or in the airport, you can actually recognize a light worker. You can recognize people who are like you somehow. And when you actually nod to each other and just see each other, somehow people recognize each other in that capacity. So every day, you know, compared to when I started on this path in 2007, it's been 12 years now or over. No, people actually are coming like big time, okay? Even in the Middle East. And as a matter of fact, I think there are two directions going on right now, Todd. The first direction is New World Order. The second direction is New Age.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and they are working, both of them are working really hard. Okay. But people who are more into energy healing are going to win ultimately, because the other direction is actually suffering. The egos are breaking down from within, from the pain and suffering. And even materialism. You know, I mean, look at me. I could be making $500,000 a year now, Tom. Okay, and now I'm just living, you know, just like a fraction, just a very, very small fraction of it.
Well,
Okay?
welcome
And
to the club.
we do not care. My wife and I are okay. So far, we have our immediate needs were good.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't get any pressure to go and make all of that kind of money, and I still can. But I also believe that this kind of book is actually going to be heard quite well, okay, because the world needs it.
Yeah.
And it actually talks a lot about ego, not just as an individual ego, the collective ego,
Yes,
and without attacking anyone in particular,
that's right.
or any institution or any culture in particular. It actually delineates all the mechanisms of ego, and then you will figure out on your own what kind of ego structure I belong to, and how good and how healthy it is for me, and what about my own individual ego, and all kinds of ego structures, and how can I come out of them. So once this spreads, in addition to the Reiki, in addition to the meditation, in addition to the massages, I believe big time in massages, by the way. And my own healing actually did not occur to this point, you know, without lots of massages. You know, I did actually want to go and study it for 6 whole months. Okay. And I opened it in my in a wellness center in Florida. And so I believe people are coming to the world of spirit. From some are coming from poetry, some are coming from energy work, some are coming from physics, mathematics, all walks. These are the smart ones. But I also state in this book that in this world right now lives at least 1,000 Christ and 1,000,000 Buddhas.
Yeah.
And I do believe it. I don't want to compliment anybody in particular, but a lots of people that I come across to me are Christs and Buddhas.
Yeah.
And they are living and they are doing absolutely their best, you know, and this is making change. One person, in my humble opinion, okay, neutralizes the effect of 1,000,000.
Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Absolutely, 100%. And I like what you said too about recognizing the external egoic, whether it be a person or a collective egoic group, without having to name names. We don't have to name names. We're not talking about people. It's not personal. It's energy. It's energy.
Yeah.
Some of it's aware of itself. Some of it's not. Some of the energy we're not aware of. You know, I mean, everybody's in the same boat. I skimmed through the book. It was very interesting because there's personal history, there's documentation, there's a lot of credibility established because it's very diverse. And you were just talking about these egoic things, these groups as well. I remember seeing one part where there was a list, I believe you called them floors. And again, this was a way of seeing different elements of what we're up against. But there was another part, and the other part of the book that I like is the simplicity of some very simple statements. And I had one example I pulled up, which I know doesn't sound like it's rocket science, but I think a lot of us miss this because we came out of this yogi guru mentality. I'm going to fix you. You know, I'm the teacher, you're the student, and there's like a separation. And I'm watching people this past year become more empowered and breaking away as that consciousness is expanding everywhere. But you have a comment in here, and you said the divine does not do things for you. She gets things done by you. And I really, really love that because in my journey or in my own understanding, I get the universe doesn't, no one's going to do anything for you. I mean, we are made in the image. We have the ability to expand by virtue of our own expansion as a central point in the universal. And I love those little simple, profound statements that you have all through the book, you know. It's a nice blend. I haven't read it all, and I'm just telling everybody because everybody knows I don't read much, but I will tell you that I am gonna finish reading this book because it is very unique, and it's very original, and it's also very diverse, and it has a lot of credible things to substantiate what you're putting across. You know, it's hands-on and research and education and training and experiences of your own life and of that of others through your work. So I just want to say
I
big props.
appreciate your comments, Todd. That's beautiful of you to say, as usual. And the uniqueness part actually touches me so much. As a matter of fact, in the first comment on your post, when you announced about our meeting here, I did put a link to the book on Kindle so anybody can sample it. Because if we create a momentum,
Yeah.
it's all about momentum. That's what you're doing, and this is what I am doing. If we create momentum, this book can actually spread. And the teachings can actually, if you feel that they are quite worth spreading and a momentum is behind it, it may actually help the transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, there's no coincidences. We all know that by now. So Morgan and I are heading to Florida, probably in, I don't know, probably in 2 weeks. We have a conference in Sarasota for 2 or 3 days, but I have a feeling we're going to be hanging out in Florida for the rest of January, all of February, and probably the first part of March because it's warm for one
Yeah.
reason.
This is
And
why we moved to Florida a couple of years back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heba loved it too. Yep.
And I'm familiar with the area that you're in, and I know we're going to have some type of Soulogy event around mid-January, but I think we might have more than one in Florida because Florida's a big state. I lived there 3 times, and I know you're down in South Florida, so we've got a lot of friends there. So I can see bringing these different, a lot like
A lot of energy workers there too.
I know
Beautiful, amazing.
absolutely, yes, and there's a lot of diversity with what people have to offer. I could probably name 15 or 20 people right now that that are in Florida that all bring a different piece, like you were saying earlier. Some people do it through poetry, some might do light language, you know, some are doing it through, you know, just different
Chanting,
methods.
music, yes.
Yeah. And service, energy practitioners, that type of thing. But yeah, I'd love to hear more about it and collaborate with you. And just like you said, I think whether it's the book or the energy, well, the book is an energy. The book is an energy, just like Soulogy is an energy, just like you're an energy and I'm an energy. And the more of this energy that we can congeal and bring together, the more it's going to expand. And I'm sure, without asking you, but I'm going to ask you, that you've probably seen an expansion just through your practice in the power of the energy expanding itself and the effect it has on other people.
It's amazing. I never imagined that possible.
Yeah, it is amazing.
The results are astonishing. Trust me, in my humble opinion, okay, you can save tens of thousands of dollars, you know, just in a few sessions of energy work, you know,
Yeah.
whether that's Reiki or massage or meditation.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you now, do you do, I know you do sessions locally, but do you do sessions online? Do you do distance sessions, or is it just strictly?
I will, because I'm actually tuning into more into online in order to pay attention to this book and extend it. I wrote this book first in Arabic, by the way, and it got a major publisher in Egypt.
Wow.
And I need to pay attention to this book in order to create momentum. So I'm going to spend a lot more time online. And I actually love, because healing, as what is going on right now, we have this connection. We don't have to be together in the very same room.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So yes, so distant connection, distant healing actually is the future. Yeah,
Yes.
I'll pay attention to that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. So I want to give you, before we run out of time, I want to give you a few minutes to discuss whatever you would like to discuss. You know, talk about anything, any specific parts of the book, or what you're doing, what you'd like to do, or anything you'd like to talk about. The floor is yours.
Well, one thing is I wanted to actually state that I actually have known you as a Facebook friend for a few years, maybe several years,
Mm,
and I am so pleased and delighted, to see you where you are now. Thank you. I love it.
thank
Okay. So that's number one. Number two, uh, I truly believe there are some little things in the book that actually have not been addressed before. It's like the nothing being the divine. Like the nothing is one, because the numbers or multiplicity is a characteristic of things. Okay, so the creator of things cannot be multiple, it must be one.
Yeah.
Likewise, the zero is one and not multiple. Infinity is one and not multiple. And it is the meeting or the consummation of zero and infinity in nothingness. That is love. And this is what launched the universe and what's known as the Big Bang. And I take it from there to actually tell you that the container, the ocean that we live in, is a nothing. And when you go all the way to the subatomic space and the subatomic particles, and with quantum physics, you see that they crumble into energy waves and nothing. So the nothingness, that's your essence, is the nothingness, is the essence of the universe. And when you go meditate, you go to nothingness. And when I go meditate, I go to nothing. And that place is one. That's why we meet. That's why you see people who get to this field, no matter where they come from, they say the same things. They have very similar experiences. So, uh, so it's so I believe that it's worth going to this field of nothingness and communicating it to the public in order to overcome all kinds of mental suffering. And you name it, anxiety, depression, marital conflict, all kinds of things. Thank you.
So yes, and so you can apply it to physical conditions and afflictions. You can also apply it to well, it's all energy, I guess, right? Energetic conditions such as a relationship issues, like what you were just saying. You can apply it anywhere.
Yeah, because no conflict happens unless both individuals are in the ego. So now, if I fight with you, both of us must be in the ego. Okay. So if one of us, like my wife does a lot of times, when I go to the ego, she rises. So if one of the two rises, no conflict will happen. So at least take responsibility that we can rise above the ego. When you do it in meditation, you can do it during the meditation, but your life's journey is to bring this meditation experience into everyday life transaction, which all the bright people, all the beautiful people who are very, very successful, they do this so naturally. So
Yes.
you will bring the energy of meditation into our life transaction. So every transaction we do is full of love and kindness and peace and harmony. We can even send it, to situation, to business meetings. We can actually help groups in workplace be coherent and caring and, creating good energy in the workspace.
Yeah.
Studies, when someone is going to the exams, a lot of times I get kids, college students or high school students going to the exam, just going to the energy, and then you do it like magic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it has its usefulness everywhere in life.
Yeah. 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 This is the real stuff. Yeah. This is the real stuff, and it's all coming out now.
We should have been taught this in middle school. Nobody taught it to us.
Well, it's happening now. And actually these kids are coming into it with already, they don't even need to hear from us before too long. They're going to be teaching us. But now I wanted to just make the point to everybody. I don't know if you heard it, if you were here before, but this is a man, a brother, who could be making well into six figures, $500,000. He's a doctor, but he's chosen to take this path. And I think a lot of people are doing that. So if you get nothing else out of it today, you know, and I'd love to have you back. I'd love to have you and your wife on. I'd love to have you and your son, whatever, you know, just to continue the collaborations. But, you know, if you guys can take away anything from this conversation, it is to, you know, there's nothing to lose by following your heart and by expanding on this innate knowledge and knowing that we have. So I look forward to doing this again with you, but I want to read one other thing from the book. And I want to tell you too, that the book, one of the reasons I don't read books, because a lot of them are real thick. This one's 200 pages and it's a very easy read from the parts that I've gone over. But there's a part in here that I want to go over with before we get out of here. And
Please.
a lot of it, and the reason I say this is because it really hits home with me, because in my in my efforts to spread the energy of Soulogy, I see a lot of an energy of people wanting things to be fixed for them, waiting on something. That's how I'd put it. So he says in the book, don't wait for permission to build heaven on earth. No power outside of you can restrict your spirit or control your longing and dreams. Since your soul is the beam of love and the breath of the divine, you cannot be a slave or enslaved. Of course, love enslaves no one. It is the absolute and unconditional light to all. And then he says, slavery and enslavement are of the characteristics of ego. That really struck me, because you would think of ego, you think of you know, arrogance or, you know, things like that. But he says slavery and enslavement are of the characteristics of the ego, and ego worships its idol. Ego enslaves its body and does its best to enslave others. It is always frightened and lurking, trying to secure itself by all means. I know we've talked a lot about the ego, but I like the way he put this. And then he goes on to talk after that about freedom, and that we are free and that we are sovereign beings. And I think, as I've said many times, and he, you know, he's a perfect example right here with our friend. It's one thing to come into awareness. It's another thing to actualize that wisdom and love and courage and spirit and actually put it into motion. And that's what he was talking about a while ago. When you do that, it's contagious and other people pick up on it. Even if they're not conscious at a human level, they're conscious at the soul level.
The energy level, yes.
That's right. And so this was a very fast hour. Somebody asked for the book title. I just put it up in the comments. It's also in the post. And also, if you wouldn't mind, my beloved brother, putting up any information in the comments of the live so people can reach to you.
Go ahead, Eva, please put it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I imagine that, I would imagine that you're going to get quite a few messages over the next few days. So,
well, I'd love it. Actually, as a matter of fact, fortunately, I have a big page. It's over 390,000 followers, and I have a group called Oneness Community.
wow.
It's a couple of thousand now. So please find Oneness Community, or find Kamal Gabry MD Facebook page, or just type Heaven on Earth by Kamal Gabry, or Heaven on Earth Science Meets Spirituality. It's available on Amazon and Kindle. And if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free.
Well, awesome. I look forward to further collaborations, and I look forward to seeing you in Florida.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. Thank you, Todd.
And thank you for, you know, I know, because I went and looked, we've been friends for almost 6 years. And and that just blows me away, because anyone that was watching me in 2014 or 2000,
you were so brave.
I was
so brave. I love you.
But I was a totally different person, and for someone to stick with me that long, that means a lot to me. So especially someone of your stature. So blessings, all blessings to you and your family, beloved brother. It was a pleasure meeting you. I look forward to seeing you in Florida and future collaborations. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.